Welcome in to CBS Sports HQ, and wait no more, the decision is in. LeBron James, that's why we're all here. Right?
We're waiting for it again.
No?
No.
Well, we did have an exciting week 4 of the NFL season. We've got Pete Prisco with us, Kyle Long. I'm Tiffany Blackman alongside Tommy Train.
Yeah, trying to have the king steal the king of sports, that's not something we want to do here at CBS Sports HQ. But yes, the NFL, we had the Chiefs and the Jags last night. Now we have a little bit of a clearer playoff picture. I know it's early returns right now, but here's what the standings look like. You would have Indianapolis in the AFC getting the bye over the Bills. The Patriots would be the last team in. Over in the NFC, the defending champs hold tiebreakers all over the other 4-1 teams. Vikings would get the nod over the other 3-2 teams. Still way too early, but
we really do rush our life away. What are we doing here?
You noticed I didn't say if the season ended today because there's so much urgency here after 5 weeks of the NFL. But let's talk about the two teams from last night. What a game, first and foremost, they had in Duval County. But the Chiefs right now are on the outside looking in. Kyle, I'm looking right at you right now. If I were to ask you the biggest concern with the start for the Kansas City Chiefs so far, what would the answer be?
It's got to be the defense. It's got to be defense for the Kansas City Chiefs. Last night, we saw what the Kansas City offense can look like when they get some of their dudes out there at receiver. And Patrick Mahomes, best in the business at quick game, and he had so much time by scheme at times that he was pointing down there to the end zone back there in the pocket. We haven't seen that from Patrick Mahomes in a long time. And it's what we talked about. The offensive line's gotten better, but it's that defense that needs to pick up a little bit of the slack. And what we've seen in seasons past is when the offense has a dip, the defense steps up and make big plays. We saw there nothing more evident than the defense not making the big stop at the end. Trevor Lawrence into the end zone for his second rushing touchdown. He ain't a rushing quarterback. You can't let him reinvent himself against your defense. So that's my concern, Pete, the defense.
Where were Chris Jones and Karlaftis for that game? I mean, you got to be able to knock people down on a consistent basis. And they really, other than a few times, they really didn't get a lot of pressure on them. And I think when you have the game on the line, that's when Chris Jones is supposed to be sacked, fumble, game over. Did you see what he did on the last play? He stood around and watched.
Saw a lot of it on the sideline,
Trevor Lawrence fell down. He stood there and watched. What does he think? It's college football and he's down?
That's what I thought he was thinking.
What was he thinking?
Yeah.
Get up. He gets up and he runs for a touchdown, and Chris Jones is just standing there. I think the defense, like you said, the back end actually played pretty sticky for most of the night. Those front guys, they got to get after it.
That was an incredible play by Lawrence. And I know we were talking in the break room. I was working sidelines for the Jags' only loss of the season. That was against the Bengals. Now they've been rolling, right? So why is this year going to be different for them, especially coming off a win like that against the Chiefs?
Coaching. It's 100% coaching. I mean, all you got to do is look at the offensive line. They've had 2 new guys on that offensive line. 2. And look how much better they are. Across the board, they're much better. They run block, they pass protect. Now, they didn't run the ball very well last night, but they pass protect much better.
Pass games off.
It's much better. And I think when you look at the other side, you know, not having Trayvon Walker last night really showed up for them on defense. They didn't get a lot of pressure on defense at all, and they dropped a lot. But guys are better, and I'm going to give you an example. Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd got heavy last year. They told him to gain weight. He was slow, he was sluggish. He didn't look like the same guy. He got out of position, didn't know the defense, had to be lined up all the time. Well, they've simplified things for him. He's lost weight, he plays faster, and right now he's in Defensive Player of the Year conversation. The little things, the coaching is what the difference is. And I do think that they're more physical than they've ever been, at least in a long time.
It just seems to me that they are pressing the right buttons for Trevor Lawrence, and obviously there's still stuff to be desired from both sides of the ball. You and I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg for what the Jaguars can get accomplished. Now, this is a roster, a team that has made its way into the playoffs, but we've never really looked at them as serious competitor, contender, as I'm watching Trevor trip twice.
Chris Jones is watching still over there.
Yeah, I know, that's brutal. But this team, they're different. And you know why they're different? Because they've got the Johnnies and Joes, and now they pair it with some X's and O's. Big-time players stepping up in big situations. Trevor Lawrence reinventing himself as a passer and a runner. That'll open up the lanes at the second level next week.
I still think he needs to start getting the ball down the field more. And I think that last drive, that throw to Brian Thomas on the sideline might be one of the best throws we've seen in a long time. That's going to get him going. I think there's been a little bit of hesitancy on his part to drive the ball down the field. He's passed on shots. When you watch the tape, he's passed on shots to take completions, and he's getting the ball out of his hands. Other than Aaron Rodgers, he gets the ball out of his hands quicker than any quarterback in the league. But that also means you're not driving the ball down the field. And I think that's the next step. You saw the throw to Hunter. Those are coming.
Yeah, that was your biggest criticism last year. A lot of this from Jacksonville, side to side, nothing down the field.
Yeah, they don't do that as much
You
anymore.
throw it to Travis Hunter in the flat. He's got his back to the defense. He can make 2 guys miss and get 15,
They
20
gotta get him the
yards.
ball more.
Same kind of thing we saw from Mahomes to Brown, making all those guys miss. You don't have to go downtown Julie Brown to get there.
Let's segue into a conversation with the Jags, and that would be the Colts. Right now, a couple of different actual questions. You know, are you buying stock twofold? Colts in the division or to make the playoffs? I'll give you guys some options of how much stock you want to buy. Pete, start with you.
Well, I think they're making the playoffs. In fact, I think both those teams are making the playoffs. It's just a matter of which one wins. I think both Jacksonville and the Colts are going to make the playoffs. The one concern I have with the Colts is you could look at Jacksonville's schedule and say, oh, they got a couple good wins on there. You can look at their schedule and say, well, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Titans, they beat the Raiders. They did beat the Broncos.
Yeah.
And again, that was one they probably shouldn't have won if you go back and look at it. So their schedule hasn't been that tough. And I think it gets a little tougher there when they got at Chargers, at Steelers in a couple weeks, at the end of the month. Those get tougher. But I do like what they're doing. You talk about a team that's physical on the offensive line. They have 2 new starters on the offensive line, and both those guys are playing really well.
Young Paisan.
Yeah, Portolini. He's tough in the middle. And then you look at their defense. I still have concerns about the defense. They're going to have problems outside at corner, I think, all year long. But I do think they're physical. They can run the ball with Taylor. They're going to. If Daniel Jones is playing like he is now, they're going to be tough to stop every week for any defense.
Hey, can we pull up that schedule again? By the way, great highlights. I love the Colts. I'm all in on the Colts. Pull up that schedule with the results. Okay, Pete, they beat the Dolphins, but they beat them 33-8, bro. You know how hard that is to do the National Football League, win by multiple possessions?
Yeah, they stink.
Okay,
Miami stink.
You could say they stink. 40-6 tells me, yeah, the Raiders stink, but the Colts are for real. I think this team can win out to their bye week. And then they get that bye week, and they have an opportunity to go well-rested against the Kansas City Chiefs. Go ahead, look at the schedule, Pete.
Okay, I'll say they'll beat the Cardinals this week.
They're going to be in some very tight ball games, but they have the opportunity.
The Steelers,
Come on, Chargers are
winning
falling
after
apart
the
at the seams. Here's where I think the Colts can get more out of their unit. And you talked about the secondary. They need those rush men on the edge. Liato Latu, they need Kwity Paye. They need those guys to start winning because, as you know, that makes you exponentially more successful when those rushers can get home and it covers stuff on the back end.
49ers, let's flash back to last Thursday because they beat the Rams in overtime behind Mac Jones. So this team is still hobbled, but they sit in second in the NFC. What's next for them? Can they keep finding ways to win despite the injuries?
That was a Kyle Shanahan exhibit A on why he's a great coach the other night. Look, he took Mac Jones and got the ball out of his hands. He didn't throw. I think the average length of target was 4 yards in that game. I mean, think about that. So the ball was getting out of his hands. They were scheming things up. They made it easy on him, and he played well. Can he do it again? That's the question. If he has to do it again, can he do it again? And now this week they go to Tampa. And Tampa offensively is brutally good right now. And they don't even have their guys. This offense, when they get everybody back, might be the most dynamic in the league by the time they get everybody back. Bucky Irvin's not there. They don't have their right tackle. They don't have their right guard. They don't have Mike Evans. They don't have Jalen McMillan. If all those guys come together, Tampa's going to be a challenge for anybody, but the 49ers, particularly this week, you go on the road back-to-back. You go to the Rams, play division game. Now you go back out on a long cross-country trip. Now, it's negated a little bit by the fact that you got the extra time off playing on Thursday. That's still a tough trip and a tough game against a team that's playing really well on offense.
I'm glad you bring up Shanahan because when I think about the Shanahan teams, I know that a lot of it happens at the line of scrimmage, catch and run type throws. But if you look at Brock Purdy historically, his average depth of target's big. He was leading the league in explosive attempts down the football field. To see Kyle Shanahan scrap that and say, what am I going to build for this quarterback, Mac Jones, who you and I know he liked pre-draft. He's got his guy, he's changed his offense, and they've had success. It's a masterclass by Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, it was peppering it all around, getting Kendrick Bourne all those targets. I mean, Bourne was a PPR machine on Thursday
Don't forget,
night.
they're going to get Kittle back, and that's big. It's
whether this run and pass.
That's enormous for them, and so I think that's a big part of what they do on offense. When you have stars, and they have a lot of stars, and they're not playing, and 2 of them, 3 of them, Purdy, Kittle, and Bosa are out. That decimates your team a little bit.
So when we take a look at what we've seen through 5 weeks now in the NFL, is there a division that stands out to you about getting not only 2 but maybe 3 teams in the dance. I think right now the North would certainly get that in. West, do you think there, Kyle? What are
that
you thinking?
NFC West has got a couple teams that can sneak up and bite anybody around the National Football League. I think about the way the Seattle Seahawks have done, albeit in a loss against the Buccaneers. A lot of teams are going to lose to the Buccaneers. But the Niners, who we just talked about, Matt Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, it's hard to count those guys out. At the end of the day, when you ask me that, I just think about which divisions has the most top-heavy teams. And there's a bunch of tough teams in that division.
I'm going to go with the North, the one that it is right now. If and again, when J.J. McCarthy comes back, and he might be back, soon, how does the offense change for the Vikings, or does it? Are they still the same offense? Because look, Wentz has done some pretty good things, and so you have some questions about J.J. McCarthy. So what happens when he gets back in the lineup? But I'm going to go because the Packers are good, the Lions are good, but by the way, they're getting really banged up on defense.
The Bears are good,
and the Bears are pretty good. So at least competitive.
Yeah, they're getting better.
So
I think they're going to get 3 teams in the postseason in that division.
Okay, Pete Prisco and Kyle Long. By the way, check out their pick show. It's going to be coming up, highly viewed on the YouTubes, as Ryan Wilson would say. HQ, we've got it all here, folks, and the best part is it's all free.